Hey guys, tonight we slip into candlelit chambers where powdered stardust meets crushed gems, and you probably won't survive this next level glow-in-the-dark beauty routine. But trust me, you'll be glad you stuck around. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Feel free to post your location and local time so we can chart our own Renaissance rewind across time zones. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through oak doors into the apothecary's workshop, where shelves heave under glass jars of powders that seem to capture moonlight itself. The air is thick with the sweet earth scent of crushed bilberry and the metallic tang of ground alabaster. One brass lantern swings overhead, its flame trembling like a heart in anticipation. Here, beneath carved beams stained by centuries of soot, you confront the dawning of alchemy's luminous promise, the earliest attempts to mix phosphorescent minerals into candles and cosmetics, a wild ambition wrapped in silk pouches and arcane scrolls. You kneel beside a chipped marble mortar fingertips, brushing a mound of luminescent powder the hue of pale dawn. It glitters faintly even before you add water, like pixie dust, daring you to blink. A mainstream historical fact anchors this marvel by the early Renaissance European apothecaries had begun re-exploring ancient texts like those attributed to Pliny and Dioscorides that described the glow of certain minerals when heated or exposed to moisture. You could almost hear the whisper of monks copying those texts in candlelit scriptoria centuries earlier. A quirky tidbit tickles the edges of your mind. Rumor has it that some alchemists insisted unicorn horn ash was the secret ingredient that bound glow powders to the skin, a claim that made wealthy patrons gasp and nobles line up at the next court mask. Historians still argue whether these fantastical materials ever existed or were simply the product of an overzealous scribe's imagination. You pour a thin stream of rose water into the mortar and stir with a silver spatula until the powder forms a pale paste. The aroma is a heady swirl of florals and damp stone, like stepping into a dew-kissed cavern full of buried treasure. A light joke drifts through your thoughts. If medieval cosmetics had Instagram filters, this potion would come with Jock Glow Ergo Home. You sweep a dab onto your fingertip and press it against your wrist. Almost instantly, the skin beneath seems to shimmer, as though you've trapped a shard of moonbeam. Above you, a metal bell chimes softly, perhaps, left from a former life in a cathedral, reminding you that this workshop doubles as a shrine to transformation, both spiritual and physical. You wipe a bead of paste onto a porcelain test tile. It glows faintly under the lantern's glow, then brightens as the room's shadows deepen. It's not quite portrait light, bright, but in the hush, it feels miraculous. A second light joke surfaces selling glow face would beat any modern K-beauty trend. Just don't ask about the side effects. You uncork a tall vial labeled in looping script phosphorus of the ancients, its cap sealed with crimson wax. The powder inside is chalk white matte as chalk dust. When you tap it lightly, tiny particles drift into the air like luminescent fireflies. You snort literally as a stray mote catches in your nostril and drapes your senses in tingling anticipation. A fringe detail arises, Some experimental notes claim alchemists once mixed urine with quicklime to isolate phosphorus, a messy, pungent process that earned the workshop the nickname the Glow Stink Lab. Historians still argue whether any of those early isolations truly produced elemental phosphorus, or were just smoke screens for theater. You settle back on a wooden stool scarred with knife notches and ink splatters. The floorboards beneath you creak in time with your heartbeat. You feel the weight of countless trials, some yielding breathtaking glimmers, others ending in ruinous burns or glowing stains that refuse to wash off. Yet here lies the romance of discovery. The alchemists vow to wrest light from the earth itself. A narrow slit window frames a sliver of twilight, its indigo hue offset by the flame's gold. You recall that final tumble of dusk outside the infirmary, rosehip infusions heating hearts, and sense a kinship between healing salves and beauty's glow. Both art and medicine once dwelled in these same hands. A third light joke flickers. You'd market this as Beauty and the Beast, because once it glows, you might look like a creature of legend. You reach for the powder again, dipping a slender brush carved from goose feathers. It fans across a glass vial, coating its surface in a gauzy sheen. Holding the vial aloft, you watch the light catch fleetingly on the gilded script that reads Lumineux Visage. Under your breath you whisper a mock incantation. By beeswax and bone ash reveal thy radiance, and a faint chuckle escapes you. Beyond the mortar, a bundle of aged scrolls lies bound by crimson ribbon. You inch forward and unroll one, revealing diagrams of test subjects, likely apprentices, each with glowing flecks mapped across cheeks and foreheads. One margin note exclaims, "Pigment fades at dawn, requires nightly renewal." A curious paradox destined to shimmer in darkness, yet dependent on mortal rituals. You trace the delicate ink, feeling the gentle tug of centuries. A soft wind from the window stirs a nearby tapestry depicting a moonlit grove. Their stylized trees bear luminescent fruits, each glowing orb signifying hope against winter's dark. The tapestry's gold threads catch the lantern glow and spark like stardust. You lean back, imagining an audience of future viewers, each stroke of gouache and shell gold, capturing alchemy's promise in vibrant stillness. You dab another brushstroke onto your palm, watching the cuticle edges glow like embers. A sense of closeness washes over you. All these experiments, marginalia, and whispered debates converge in this moment of tactile wonder. You inhale the mingled scents, earth, rose water, burnt lime, and almost taste the thrill of turning stone into light. A voice murmurs from the workshop corner, perhaps an apprentice reluctant to disturb you. But you remain savoring the hush before the next experiment. Tomorrow, you'll return to test glow ratios under candlelight, refine recipes, and maybe scribble a new margin doodle, a tiny moon with a mischievous grin. For now, the powdered promise of phosphorescence warms you more than any hearth fire. You slip out of the mortar's soft glow and wind through narrow corridors to the infirmary vestibule, where the air still carries a faint echo of your last experiment's rosewater steam. Outside, the evening sky hangs heavy with threat. A plague season? etched in hushed rumors and shuttered windows. You trudge past stacked straw mattresses and lean against a cold stone wall, pressing your palm into its rough surface as if grounding yourself against the weight of unseen contagion. Here, in the shadow of pestilence, alchemists first turned their phosphorescent pursuits toward something beyond mere spectacle salves and ointments, promising not only glow in the dark allure, but a talismanic shield against disease. You gather a small silver bowl from a narrow ledge and measure out a pinch of powdered stibnite, an ore prized for its faint sulphurous shimmer, and mix it with a dash of quicklime and distilled lily water. As you stir, the granular paste takes on a muted bluish sheen like dawn's first breath. A mainstream historical fact anchors your motion during the Black Death of the mid-14th century European apothecaries. Desperate for remedies, did indeed concoct salves imbued with ingredients thought to repel miasmas, the bad airs believed to carry plague, often including botanical extracts that incidentally exhibited mild luminescence under candlelight. You inhale the metallic tang aroma, feeling its cold edge press against your senses. A quirky tidbit drifts through your mind. Some chroniclers claim that apothecaries once added powdered bezoar stone, an odd concretion from goat stomachs, believing it conferred immunity when glazed onto the skin and left to glow like a ghostly badge. Historians still argue whether bezoar's reputation stemmed from genuine antitoxin properties or simply medieval marketing hype dressed in exotic mystique. You tip a drop of ewer water into the stibnite lime mash, and it hisses softly as though simmering anticipation in its veins. Your spoon digs deeper, exposing flecks of phosphorescent ore that wink with inertia. A light joke drifts by. You imagine labeling this plague-proof glow balm TM, because who doesn't want a radiant complexion when the world's going dark? You smile at the absurdity and gently press the paste onto a clean porcelain tile, watching it glow faintly as the lantern flame trembles overhead. In the hush, it feels like a sigh of relief against the hush of impending dread. You lower your head and trace a line of chalk on the tile beside the glow patch, marking test 1 stibnite only. Then you add a sprinkle of crushed emerald, another hue of subterranean light, to the remaining paste. The color shifts to a moss-green shimmer, recalling summer fields just before dusk. A second light joke surfaces. If medieval beauty influencers had YouTube, they'd stream how to rock glow-in-the-dark eyeliner while avoiding the Black Death. You tuck that quip away, mindful of the solemnity around you. Across the stone floor, the faint drip of herbal infusions from the apothecary's distillation alembic forms a soft percussion. You stir the emerald-infused paste into a homily of rosehip and laurel oil, each drop of botanical essence helping bind mineral to fat. It smells of evergreen forests and sun-warmed jars, a startling contrast to the specter of plague. A fringe detail tiptoes to your awareness. Legend has it that some alchemists sang psalms over their ointments during eclipse of St. Michael's feast to imbue spiritual light, though historians still debate whether these incantations truly enhanced glow or simply rallied pious confidence. You press a fingertip into the emerald blend and dot your temple, marveling as the green trace gleams with a faint, otherworldly pulse. It's subtle, more hearth lantern than bonfire, but in the dim corridor, it feels like discovering a hidden star. A third light joke springs to mind. You'd hashtag this luminous look pestilence party. The corners of your mouth twitch upward as you dab a second dot near your cheekbone, imagining the startled looks of plague-ravaged passers-by who half believe they've encountered an angel. A narrow shaft of moonlight pierces the slitted window above, illuminating a faded fresco of saints, stamping out demons with flaming torches. You imagine those holy warriors witnessing your alchemical handiwork and nodding in approval. You recall Section 1's first glimmer of moonbeam powder and sense a musical echo, earlier discoveries and midnight recipes, all converging here in a dance of light and fear. The corridor's hush feels alive with history's breath. You lay out a row of small wax-sealed vials on a stone shelf, one containing stibnite balm, another emerald blend, and a third mixed with powdered magnetite for a reddish glow. In their own way, these vials resemble tiny reliquaries, each promising light in darkness. A mainstream historical fact reminds you that medieval apothecaries often presented treatments in ornate jars as sacred relics, part practical remedy, part ritual performance. You cap each vial and label them in brown ink script, Protégés paste verdant vigil blood of the earth. Beneath each name, you add tiny gilded flourishes, stars, vines, and crescent moons to reflect their unique glow. A fringe rumor surfaces some court apothecaries claimed their jars were blessed by bishops upon delivery, guaranteeing both spiritual and physical protection. Though historians still argue whether such ecclesiastical endorsements carried genuine healing power or simply boosted sales. A soft scuff echoes behind you. An apprentice arrives with a small wicker basket of dried meadowsweet and wormwood, the two feuding in aromatic counterpoint. You accept the basket with a nod, then gesture toward the lantern's flicker to guide her toward better light. As she kneels, you catch a glimpse of her teal habit and imagine her unspoken awe at your shimmering vials. You feel a quiet kinship. Both of you bear the weight of hope in these glowing powders. Turning back to your experiments, you take up a small wooden spatula and spread a teaspoon of the blood of the earth paste along the mortar's edge. The red dust gleams like embers and ash, an eerie testament to transformation. You flick a stray mote into the lantern flame. It sizzles and vanishes, leaving behind a faint pop that echoes like distant thunder. A light joke flickers. You tell modern beauty gurus, this liner is fire quite literally. Against the corridor's far wall, a stone basin stands ready for cleansing. You dip your fingers into its cool water and wash away the emerald and red smudges, watching the glow fade like a dying star. In that moment, you sense the alchemist's deeper yearning, not just to produce novelty cosmetics, but to capture light itself, an eternal beacon against plague's shadow. You recall their nightly nocturne record-keeping sessions, each tally marking not just yields, but existential defiance. A distant clink of metal on stone signals the workshop's closing hour. You gather your vials and press them into a leather satchel, feeling their reassuring weight against your hip. The lantern's flame now guttering you, step into the dusk-chilled cloister courtyard. Above stars prickle the indigo sky, each one a silent testament to the celestial whimsy that once guided luminous ambitions. You pause beneath a vine-entwined pillar and run your fingers over its carved frost marker, remembering the garden's marker from Section 2's introductory steps, feeling a shiver of continuity across seasons. In the hush, each vial's promise seems alive, a small pool of starlight ready to ward off darkness, both mortal and metaphysical. You inhale, tasting the rosewater lime air, and think tomorrow. Plague or no plague, you'll refine your recipes further. Scribble another margin doodle, a protective symbol for weary souls yearning for light. You step into the alchemical lamp chamber where the air is faintly warm and charged with the scent of brimstone and clay. Copper pans bubble gently on a low brazier, and you can almost taste the iron-tinged breath of smoldering charcoal. The walls here are studded with earthenware vessels labeled in delicate brown ink, barium sulfide, calcium phosphorus, arsenic glass. Each jar seems to hum with potential, like a choir of silent glass voices waiting to be released. You settle onto a wooden stool, polished smooth by centuries of elbows, and brace yourself for your next rendezvous with luminescent mystery, the philosopher's lamp. You scoop a pinch of chalky barium sulfate from its jar, its surface rough as dragon's tooth, and mix it with powdered animal bone ash in a shallow clay dish. A mainstream historical fact glows in your mind. By the late 16th century, European alchemists rediscovered ancient treatises describing how heated barium and calcium compounds, once properly ignited, could emit a faint phosphorescent glow long after the flame was removed. You inhale the dusty fumes, a tang of burnt bone and chalky earth, and feel the collision of deep time on your senses. A quirky tidbit flickers at the edge of your mind. Rumor has it that some early experimenters believed that a pinch of powdered unicorn horn, likely rhinoceros keratin, would amplify the glow tenfold, though historians still argue whether this magical ingredient was ever anything more than a pseudo-scientific placeholder for unknown reagents. You stifle a sleepy giggle at the thought of unicorn dust lighting up your makeup routine, then carefully sprinkle a fingernail-sized heap of barium calcite into a small crucible. You place the crucible onto the charcoal embers and watch as the white powder darkens to a ghostly gray sizzling under the heat. A soft hiss punctuates the hush, a reminder that you're coaxing light from substances not meant for the stage. A light joke drifts through your thoughts. If modern LEDs had to be heated in charcoal fires, everyone would be living by lantern glow and complaining about their light bills. You use a pair of iron tongs to lift the crucible, its surface radiating gentle warmth against your leather gauntlet. Pulling the crucible away from the flame, you let it cool for exactly 3 minutes, timing it by the flicker of a nearby candle's drip. Then, in a slow, reverent motion, you tip the powder onto a marble slab. Instantly, it glows with a soft, greenish-blue light, an echo of moonlight trapped in mineral form. The room dims as the powder pulses, a living starfield scattered across hard stone. You press your palm near the glow, feeling its faint radiance seep into your skin like a whispered promise. A second light joke surfaces. You'd call this eco-friendly ambient lighting, though you might need a health waiver for the arsenic-laced lampshade. You lean in closer, Using a quill to brush stray grains into precise patterns, a circle here, a constellation there. Each line shimmers before your eyes, but you're aware of the chemical cost barium compounds can be toxic if mishandled. You trace the glowing spiral and murmur to yourself, light from death's residue, and wonder if that irony was ever explicitly noted in alchemical manuscripts. Historians still argue whether practitioners fully understood the dangers of their phosphorescent powders or reckoned toxicity was an acceptable toll for a little glow. Across the table, a narrow window slit lets in a sliver of indigo sky. You add a spritz of vinegar to another pile of cooled powder acid washing to remove impurities and watch the glow sharpen to a crisp electric tone. A fringe detail flickers into view. Legend purports that alchemists once used stale wine lees instead of vinegar, believing the fermentation byproducts strengthened the phosphorus glow. But historians still debate whether such rustic shortcuts ever produced reliable luminescence or simply ended in smelly flops. You scoop a tiny sample into a small glass phial, cork it with a carved bone stopper, and shake it gently. The light ripples like a captured heartbeat. A third light joke drifts through. You'd hashtag this Klaprost bottle your own sunlight. Except medieval hashtags would probably look like tiny crosses carved in lead. You tuck the phial into a satin-lined velvet pouch, your own miniature philosopher's lamp ready to carry home. Beside you, a brass-bound notebook awaits your scribbled observations. You record the time-to-glow decay rate and notes on impurity color shifts. At the top of the page, you ink a header experimentum noctis and draw a tiny gilded flourish of a crescent moon. You dip your quill in diluted barium wash just enough to tint the nib ghostly green. A mainstream fact anchors you. Many alchemists kept meticulous notebooks, precursors to modern lab journals, documenting each step with astonishing detail and personal flair, acknowledging weather mood and even cathedral bells that chimed mid-experiment. A leather satchel bulging with powdered minerals rests at your feet. You lift a small fold of flax cloth from within, revealing calcined oyster shells used as a buffer to refine the glow. The shells shimmer faintly in the lantern light, as though absorbing and re-emitting the room's soft luminance. You rub one against the back of your hand, brittle yet luminous, and think ancient cooks and healers never wrote about edible oyster glow, so someone missed a branding opportunity. In the corner, a cracked clay lamp burns a low, steady flame. You sprinkle a pinch of your newly purified calcium phosphate onto its wick, and a pale green aura blooms around the oil droplet. The brass lamp's design, three-legged with vine motifs echoing the cloister's arches, seems made to emphasize the glow. A light joke twinkles. You'd call this artisan Viking vapor. If only they had craft lamp breweries back then. You lean back against the cold stone wall, the glow powder jar nestled in your lap. The gentle azure pulse feels like a lullaby, woven from light itself, urging eyes to close even as it beckons wonder. You breathe in the mingled scents of smoldering charcoal, burned bone ash, and sweet wine vinegar, and you sense that tonight the philosopher's lamp has once again bridged earth and sky, alchemical fire coaxing luminous breath from silent stone. A distant clang echoes the heavy wooden doors of the apothecary closing for the night. You gather your notebooks, file, and pouches, murmuring a thanks to the unseen hands that first mixed chalk and bone to tame darkness. You step through the chamber's low arch, the glow fading behind you like a remembrance. In the hush, you know the experiment spark will live on in notes and marginal doodles, awaiting the next curious mind to breathe life back into phosphorescent promise. You slip out of the lamp chamber and follow a narrow corridor to the moonlit alcove where a slender window frames a silver orb hanging low in the indigo sky. The stone ledge beneath it is cluttered with fragments of crushed lapis lazuli silver nitrate crystals and chipped porcelain bowls. You settle onto a carved oak stool and let the moon's pale glow drift across your upturned face, anticipating the next revolution in Renaissance beauty alchemy cosmetics, said to shimmer by moonlight itself. You scoop a quarter teaspoon of finely powdered lapis from a small jar, its color as deep as midnight sky, and mix it in a shallow bowl with just enough distilled spring water to form a pastel paste. A mainstream historical fact anchors this craft. By the late 16th century, European apothecaries and court cosmeticians prized ultramarine pigment ground from the semi-precious mineral lapis lazuli, not only for its vivid hue but also for its subtle luminescence when applied thinly to the skin under candle or moonlight. You inhale the chalky sweetness of the mineral and feel a tingle as though you're coaxing sapphire fire onto your cheeks. A quirky tidbit surfaces legend claims that some cosmetic alchemists dusted rose petals with silver nitrate before drying and pulverizing them, believing the floral essence would bind the silver crystals more harmoniously to the skin, though historians still argue whether rose silver composites ever truly added luminosity or simply smelled better than raw salts. You raise a slender porcelain spoon and stir in a pinch of silver nitrate, watching as the paste shimmers with tiny metallic moons. You draw a swirl across your jawline and the pigment feels cool against your skin, a gentle whisper of mineral cold. Under the moonbeam, the lapis paste gleams, each fleck of silver catching light like distant stars. You lean forward, watching your reflection in a polished bronze mirror hung by a leather thong. You look like a celestial emissary, a being caught between earth and sky. A light joke drifts by. If medieval influencers had vanity mirrors, they'd no doubt caption this lunar lux, though their followers might mistake them for day-walking ghosts. Next, you dip a soft brush carved from squirrel tail into a second dish containing crushed calcined pearl and egg white whitewash, a recipe whispered among cosmetic guilds as pearl moon milk. The paste is milky with opalescent flecks, and you sweep it over your eyelids in fine arcs. A mainstream historical fact shines here. Pearl powder ground from mollusk shells was used in medieval and Renaissance cosmetics for its supposed skin brightening and reflective properties, lending a pearly glow under soft lighting. You blink, tasting the shell's faint salinity and feeling tiny grains nibble at your lashes. A fringe rumor flutters through your thoughts. Some court beautifiers swore they mixed ground dragonfly wings dried and powdered into their luminescent balms to impart an otherworldly sheen, though historians still debate whether this practice was real or a fanciful myth spun by court gossip. You shudder at the thought of squashed insect fragments, but admire the audacity of such a claim. You pair the lapis silver paste and pearl whitewash with a dash of crushed beetroot, its dark red streak grounding the lunar radiance with earthy warmth. The tricolor blend sits in the bowl like liquid gemstone confetti. You inhale its vegetal sweetness and tickle your nose with stray beet fibers. A second light joke surfaces. You'd call this party on the moon palette, though the moon's surface is more crater than cocktail. A sudden shift in the moon's arc throws your alcove into deeper shadow. You hold your breath as the glow on your skin intensifies where silver nitrate catches fleeting lunar beams. Your cheeks flicker like living lanterns. You feel an uncanny kinship with those plague-seasoned salves, both intended to illuminate and protect. The corridor's hush seems to exhale around you, echoing your earlier breath in the lamp chamber. You trace a slender line down your nose with a fine brush dipped in the pearlescent mix, imagining how courtiers would gather in hushed awe at your face, both cosmetic marvel and mystical omen. A callback to Section 2 warms your mind there. You pressed emerald-infused balm to your temple during plague's darkest nights. Now you wear moonlight itself, like a spectral mask. Reaching for a narrow phial of alchemically tempered resin, you melt a drop over a candle's flame and add it to the mixture as a binder. The resin's aroma is piney and sacral, like walking through a cathedral roofed with living wood. It thickens the paste, giving it a tack that clings to skin. You brush a fine line along your collarbone, leaving a trailing comet of shimmer. A scholarly debate phrase drifts through your thoughts. Historians still argue whether the mortared resins used in such cosmetics served primarily for adhesion or acted as fixatives to preserve pigments across night-long fates. You tilt your head and note how the resinous binder tints the lapis silver paste with a honeyed gleam, transforming stark glimmer into warm radiance. Across the courtyard beyond the slit window, a lone owl hoots, a nocturnal herald of your beauty alchemy. You press your palm to the cool stone wall and survey your luminous handiwork in the bronze mirror once more. Each hue, silver, sapphire, pearl, shines in a delicate symphony orchestrated by moonlight and mortar. A final light joke forms. If medieval masquerade balls had glow sticks, they'd outshine every jest and duel, though someone's dark reputation might flicker under the glow. You dab a tiny swirl of the paste into a vellum notebook margin marking moonlit visage, then draw a gilded crescent to seal the entry. You cleanse your face at a nearby basin, watching the moonlit pigments swirl down the drain like phantoms departing. Even as the glow wanes, you feel the moon's memory alive on your fingertips. You gather your bowls and brushes, each stained with celestial residue, and tuck them into your satchel. Before you leave the alcove, you turn back to the narrow window and whisper to the silver orb, "Thank you for tonight's light." The moon's reflection glints once more on your lids, proof that even in darkness, alchemy can engineer radiance. You slip into the back alcove of the apothecary, where a battered oak shelf leans against stone walls mottled with lichen. A single beam from the narrow slit window glints on the edge of a leather-bound notebook, its spine cracked and edges frayed. You reach out and lift it gently, the vellum cover sliding under your fingertips like a hidden treasure. This is where the alchemists' most clandestine recipes dwell, secret codices invoking unicorn horn ash, star-forged powders, and glow agents whispered only in hushed tones. You crack the cover open, inhaling the musty tang of centuries-old ink mixed with candle grease. The first page bears a looping title in fine brown ink, Sacrum Lumini Confectionem. Below it, a recipe calls for equal parts powdered cornua monocerotis and luciferum sulphuris, balanced by the tears of night-blooming jasmine. A mainstream historical fact nestles in your mind. Medieval apothecaries and court alchemists did indeed compile private notebooks, often locked away in chests containing proprietary formulas for cosmetics and medicines, a practice akin to early intellectual property. You trace the delicate script, feeling the whisper of quills dancing across parchment. A fringed tidbit shimmers at the edge of your thoughts. Rumor insists that some alchemists harvested unicorn horn ash by summoning unicorns under a waning moon, capturing their essence with silver hooks and bone tridents, though historians still argue whether such fantastical creatures ever existed or were mere allegorical stand-ins for elusive reagents. You flip the page to another recipe. To bind the horn ash, stir an egg yolk at midnight, muttering Luna Fidelis thrice. You smirk at the ritual's flair. You measure a pinch of gleaming horn ash, a powder as soft as chalk, and faintly opalescent into a small porcelain mortar. The ash smells of burnt sandalwood and sweet hay like a field at dawn behind a monastery barn. You recall the rosewater Ceylon notes from Section 2's Plague Bomb and sense how each hidden recipe weaves its own sensory tapestry. A light joke flit through your mind. If medieval beauty gurus had TikTok, they'd unbox unicorn glow palettes and challenge viewers to try a horn ash hack. Next, you reach for a jar labeled Mica Stellaris, a silvery mineral said to capture star shimmer. You sprinkle a quarter teaspoon into the mortar, the tiny flakes catching lamplight like cosmic dust. A second light joke surfaces. This is literally stardust shader, though you doubt anyone had a fancy palette brush. You stir with a slender ivory spatula, the horn and mica blending into a pale lavender paste. The texture feels velvety and cold, like moonlit marble warmed by your breath. Your eyes drift to another margin note scrawled in hurried script. Add mandrake root tincture to prolong glow until cockcrow. A whisper of macabre humor lingers. Mandrake screams, ghostly screams, yet you can't help but appreciate the theatricality. Historians still argue whether Mandrake's alleged powers justified its inclusion or whether scribes simply seized on sensational lore to enhance mystique. You press the paste onto a clean porcelain tile, drawing a small circle. Instantly, the concoction pulses with a soft pale green glow under the lamp's flicker. It's subtler than the barium salts, more ephemeral, like a dying ember poised to vanish. You touch the tile gently with your fingertip, delighted by the cool shimmer transferring to your skin. A third light joke emerges. You'd call this glow-proof highlighter, no Instagram filter required. The notebook's next chapter details a binding agent gutta draconis, or dragon's blood resin, harvested from distant palms. You slice a sliver, crush it in a tiny pestle, and add a drop of heated mandrake tincture. The resin's aroma is tangy and resinous, like pine sap, stirred with berry compote. You stir until the paste thickens into a luminous gel. You catch its scent, pine blood orange secrecy, folding into your memory like a perfumed incantation. You lean back on the stool, the secret codex open before you. A stream of candle smoke curls toward the frescoed ceiling where painted cherubs cradle golden vine scrolls. You sense the hush of covert discovery, each recipe a rebellion against daylight scrutiny. You sketch a quick margin doodle, a tiny unicorn prancing beneath a crescent moon, and seal it with a dot of dragon's blood resin. The red droplet glints like a tiny heartbeat. Beyond this alcove, the chapel bells toll midnight. You glance at the clockwork sundial embedded in the wall, a faintly gilded starburst. It reminds you that time governs all experiments too soon, and the paste won't set. Too late, and the glow fades before dawn. A callback to Section 3's Philosopher's Lamp emerges where timing and ember glow determine success. Here, timing and ritual incantations converge. You close the codex with a soft thud and tuck it beneath your arm. Its cover creaks in protest, as though sharing your reluctance to leave these secrets behind. You gather your mixed gel and seal it into a tiny phial labeled Luna's Embrace. The phial glows faintly even in your satchel, a talisman of clandestine light. A final mainstream fact anchors. You many-court alchemists charged exorbitant fees for these secret recipes, creating a luxury market where glow-in-dark cosmetics became symbols of status rather than mere curiosity. You imagine Renaissance nobles parading moonlit cheeks in candlelit halls, each pale shimmer a testament to wealth and arcane knowledge. You step away from the alcove notebook and phial in hand and drift toward the corridor's archway. The hush of hidden lore hums around you like a lullaby. Outside, the moon sails high, its silver arc mirrored in your luminous concoction. You pause under the vine-studded arch and whisper to the night, "May these secrets light the way." Then, slipping into shadow, you carry the flame of secret alchemy forward. You slip through the velvet-draped doorway into the great hall's crystalline glow where chandeliers hung with prisms spill fractured light across silk tapestries and marble floors. The scent of spiced wine and scorched beeswax mingles in the warm air as you trudge between rows of benches draped in indigo velvet. Tonight is the grand masque of the Cardinal's Court, and you're here not just for the dancers in their filigreed armor, but to witness the crowning spectacle, nobles anointed in phosphorescent powders, each face a living constellation. You weave past a duchess in saffron silk who offers you a cup of pear-infused mead, glowing faintly blue at its edges, an alchemist's flourish meant to proclaim status rather than stave off plague. A mainstream historical fact anchors your intrigue by the late Renaissance Italian and French courts had begun experimenting with luminescent cosmetics in opulent festivities, boasting luminous carnivals where powdered gems and glow agents created an otherworldly pageantry beneath tallow lamps. You sip the mead, feeling the cool sweetness slide across your tongue like liquid moonlight. A quirky tidbit flits through your mind. Rumor has it that one Venetian countess wore a hairpiece dusted with phosphorescent salt so she could read love letters in the dark, though historians still argue whether her nocturnal tete-a-tetes were genuine moonlight readings or clever romantic spin. You perch on a marble bench polished smooth by generations of dancers' elbows and watch a pair of dukes in teal brocade approach their foreheads painted with thin silver crescents that glimmer like twin moons, guiding their steps. You brush a fingertip over the Duchess's hair ribbon, discovering mineral flecks embedded in the silk ultramarine dust, tangled in the weave, each particle catching light like sapphires. A light joke drifts through your thoughts. If medieval influences had hair tutorials, they'd demonstrate 10 ways to sparkle so bright they'll think you're a comet. The Duchess notices your gaze and offers a coy smile, inviting you into her orbit of courtly radiance. Across the hall, a marquise in russet velvet strides toward a gilded mirror hung from an archway. He presses a small bronze case to his lips and murmurs a sunken incantation likely borrowed from Section 4's secret moonlight incantations, before flicking rose-water silver elixir across his cheekbones. The fine mist lands in suspended droplets, each bead refracting chandelier light into a faint greenish halo. A second light joke surfaces. You'd rate his contouring 5 stars for ambient glow, though you suspect he'd demand medieval Sephora returns on subpar palettes. You wander closer to the musicians' lutes, vials, and a serpent-like cornet, each player's cheeks dusted with luminescent rouge that pulses with the beat. Their breath-trained notes blend with the low hum of conversation, creating a soundscape as intoxicating as any scented balm. A fringe rumor tempts your fancy. Some courtiers believed that wearing glow powders in time with the madrigal's rhythm would harmonize soul and skin, though historians still debate whether such musical cosmetics were sincere rituals or just memorable party tricks. You slip behind a marble column carved with ivy vines echoing motifs from Section 2's moonlit alcove, and the dancers burst into motion, swirling gowns, clipped boots, and powdered faces aglow in violet azure and pale chartreuse. Under the dome's fresco of Apollo and the Muses, the ballroom shimmers as if the night sky itself has come indoors. You settle on the cold marble and inspect a small jar left behind on a folding stool. It's half filled with powdered cinnabar and lime tinted a warm orangey red that glows softly like embers. You recall Section 3's philosopher's lamp there, barium and bone ash. Here, mercurial hues that feel almost alive. A third light joke forms. You'd market this as firelight blush, though today's beauty brands might worry about mercury warnings. A valet approaches, offering you a silken mask, brushed with a glow paste. He whispers that this mask reveals its luminance only when kissed by candle smoke, an effect he demonstrated in Section 1's early candlelit alchemy. You drape it on, and as the candle smoke curls around your face, the mask's tendrils ignite in soft ambers, tracing vines around your eyes. The hush around you rises as courtiers pass by, marveling at the transient glow, before the mask fades like ghostly graffiti. You step back into the dance floor just as moonlight filters through stained glass windows, an external brightness colliding with internal phosphorescence. The combination sends prismatic sparks across the tiles and leaves a trail of scattered fireflies in your wake. A light joke flits through you'd call this UV reactive ball, though you'd need an entire cavalry of lantern operators to pull it off. Near the musicians, a court physician observes the glow plus dance extravaganza. From behind a pile of preserved lead weights and measuring scales, an echo of Section 2's plague bombs. But here, he watches the glow powders for side effects rather than salve efficacy. You catch him scribbling a note, observe skin irritations post-event. Potential for mercury dermatitis. He glances up, catches your eye, and tips his cap, a reminder that every spectacle has its skeptics. You drift toward the periphery where servants pass silver platters bearing translucent confections, glowing pale blue, a sugar spun with phosphor and colored with crushed iris. A mainstream fact hums beneath the sweetness Renaissance cooks and apothecaries often overlapped roles blending culinary artistry with chemical experimentation, leading to edible luminescent treats at banquets. You pop one into your mouth, feeling the crystalline sugar dissolve like a dying star on your tongue. A noblewoman in teal baronial robes glides beside you, her cheeks alight with lapis and pearl paste from Section 4. She nods knowingly and arches an eyebrow. Isn't it charming, this nightly carnival of light? You smile thinking of Section 5's secret codices and the forbidden allure of unicorn ash. You lean in and whisper back, only if you can hide the toxicity from your dermatologist. As the dance crescendos and the chorus of vials reaches a fevered pitch, you feel the glow powder's final flourish. Rooftops outside shimmer in vantage windows, as if the very city lights below have borrowed courtly phosphors to light the night. You press your palm to the marble, then lift it to your cheek, tracing the afterglow left by your luminous mask. Bells toll midnight, and the courtiers begin to collapse into conversation clusters, their glow powders dimming like spent firecrackers. You stand brushing fine mineral dust from your sleeves and note how the spectacle's magic gave way to whispered deals and furtive glances. True court intrigue, glittering brighter than any paste. A final callback flit through your mind. Remember, Section 1's first mortar of phosphor paste and Section 3's philosopher's lamp. Here that know-how has been lavishly displayed as the ultimate status symbol. You tuck your glow jar into your satchel and melt back into the crowd, your pockets heavy with remnants of luminance, and your mind alight with the promise of new formulas. You exit the great hall through heavy oak doors, leaving behind a trail of phosphorescent footprints on the marble. The courtyard's moonlit hush greets you again, a gentle reminder that though courtly radiance fades with dawn, the alchemical pursuit of light endures in hidden notebooks, marginal doodles, and the quiet ambition of the next midnight experiment. You slip into a vaulted stone chamber lined with shelves of leather-bound treatises and brass scales, the hush here thicker than any cellar hush. Too many voices of authority whispering through musty pages. Tonight, you're not hunting glow recipes, but wading into scholarly disputes over the ethics and toxicity of wearing luminescent compounds on one's face. Two senior physicians stand at a carved oak lectern, their robes of indigo and russet-folded precisely quills poised over open folios. You settle against a fluted column, brushing your finger along a faint vine, carving a callback to those grand masked vines in Section 6, and steel yourself for a second night of philosophical sparring. On your left, Dr. Mercurio, whose name alone carries irony, holds aloft a small glass vial of cinnabar lime powder, the blood of the earth you tested in Section 6, warning of mercury's subtle poison. A mainstream historical fact underpins his caution. By the late 16th century physicians noted cases of mercurial tremors and eroded gums among court mask wearers, leading some guilds to condemn cinnabar-based cosmetics as slow-acting toxins rather than mere spectacles. Mercurio's voice is steady as he quotes a ledger entry of a nobleman whose twitching hand nearly spilled his wine at a midnight ball. Opposite him, apothecary Aurelia, garbed in saffron, lifts a powdered antimony compound stabnite you used for plague balm in Section 2. She nods to her notebooks, each margin scrawled with anecdotal cures for noble pallor. Her tone is gentle, yet fierce. Gentlemen, antimony in minute doses has preserved many a courtier's glow and health. She insists pausing to let her words settle like dust motes in candlelight. A quirky tidbit flits through your mind. Rumor says some Venetian beautifiers sold antimony pills disguised as sweet lozenges, though historians still argue whether those pills cured complexion or summoned the dead. You lean forward, catching the faint metallic tang on the air memory of that stibnite lime balm pressed to your temple in Section 2. You recall the talismanic confidence it lent amid plague fears. Now faced with doubt, you wonder, is glowing still a privilege or a peril? A light joke surfaces. If these scholars had modern product labels, they'd need 6 pages of warnings and a subscription to Recall Alert Monthly. Dr. Mercurio points to a tapestry depicting a proud countess in silver-faced glow, her lips painted rose crimson, with beetroot blush laced with phosphor. Observe her portrait, he says, sweeping his arm. 3 years later, she suffered mercurial cachexia. A second scholar across him, a young academic with a teal-trimmed hood, clears his throat and challenges the causality. Perhaps her diet of salted herring and thin gruel played a larger role. Correlation is not causation, my masters. Historians still debate whether such noble maladies stemmed from cosmetic toxins or the era's ubiquitous dietary deficiencies. A third light joke flickers. You'd love to see these quibblers in a courtroom. Your Grace, I object. The glowing cheek smear has no statistical significance. Instead, you're in this hush-lit hall, absorbing every pivot and riposte. The clash of weighty tomes and brighter theories echoes like dueling quills. Aurelia counters with a flourish of her own notebook, its edge gilded with a tiny crescent from Section 4's moonlit visage. Antimony oxide in traces beneath 1 part per 1,000 is inert enough to sit on skin all night, she asserts, dipping her quill in emerald-tinted ink. Moreover, the anthropophagy of arsenic-based dumps she flicks a vial labeled arsenic glass has documented mood elevation in aristocratic circles, boosting morale during dark winters. A fringe tidbit resonates. Some apothecaries claimed arsenic powders would give courtiers a rosy eternal blush, though historians still argue whether those mood enhancements were pharmacological effects or dramatic placebo responses. You cross your arms, recalling Section 3's Philosopher's Lamp experiments, where glowing barium and calcium compounds were distinct from medicinal ash. Here, luminescent cosmetics blur entertainment and therapy, a frontier of personal sovereignty. A faint chuckle escapes you in today's parlance. These debates sound like organic versus synthetic skincare, only with more arsenic and fewer hashtags. Dr. Mercurio taps a small scale with his quill. I propose a trial panel volunteers to wear powdered glow compounds nightly, then submit to weekly health inspections. His eyes gleam. We quantify tremors, dermal eruptions, and a present cognitive wane. You imagine courtiers strapped into measuring benches like exotic zoo specimens. A light joke drifts, call it glow while you grow clinical testing, requiring both bravery and laudanum. Aurelia shakes her head. Ethics forbid such trials. No noble subject should risk sanity for spectacle. She invokes the Hippocratic Oath, though scholars still debate whether medieval practitioners truly adhered to it or cited it selectively. You sense the crux. Is luster worth the hazard? The vocation of beauty alchemy, perched on the edge of poison. A third voice, Brother Simeon, whom you met sketching margin doodles in Section 5, rises quietly from the back. His voice is soft but clear. Let us instead refine binders and test volatility under controlled conditions. We need not parade trials publicly. He gestures at scattered wax tablets and alchemical distillations. Methodology, first spectacle, second. A mainstream fact slides in many Renaissance academies required public disputations to adhere to rules of debate, stressing rigorous demonstration before pronouncement, a proto-scientific precursor to modern peer review. You swallow, recalling the secret codices of unicorn horn ash and dragon's blood in Section 5. None bore the stain of peer critique then. Tonight's forum is a step toward tempering secret lore with ethical scrutiny. Yet you wonder who will dare cross the threshold from private mystery to public safety. A final light joke surfaces. Perhaps an alchemist would tweet, "Just found safe glow formula. No more mercury." If tweet characters existed. The two principals, Mercurio and Aurelia, lock eyes as Simeon's words hang between them. The hush ripples, candle wicks flickering like silent gongs. You feel the weight of centuries pressing through carved stone, the lineage from plague bombs to philosophers' lamps breathing debate into your lungs. In this crucible of ethics, you sense history's pivot, whether alchemy yields healing light or latent harm. You lean back and trace a glowing scarlet circle on your palm residue from last night's blood of the earth blush and marvel at its gentle warmth. A callback hums Section 2's plague salve, Section 4's moonlit mask, Section 6's courtly powders, all converge here under scholarly dispute. The question remains, will beauty alchemy shine responsibly or burn its patrons? You rise from the stool heart, humming with the tension of unresolved questions. You tuck Simeon's margin notes into your satchel, precious seeds of ethical rigor, and step toward the doorway where a lone torch guttering marks your exit. Outside the cloister's nocturnal hush awaits a quieter, but no less charged forum for reflection. You pause under the arch and whisper to the stone, "May the next experiments be guided by both radiance and reason." Then you step into the corridor's dim glow, carrying the echoes of tonight's debate in your veins, an alchemical afterglow of controversy and compassion. You slip into the cobbled courtyard behind the cathedral, where torches line the perimeter, and a hush of anticipation crackles like static. Tonight is the Festival of Lucent Potions, a raucous public spectacle where alchemists unveil their latest glow-in-the-dark cosmetics in grand demonstrations. You trudge across stone slabs slick with dew, inhaling the tang of burnt tallow mingled with sweet bergamot from street vendors. Here, amid the festival's roar, curiosity and commerce broadcast each formula's allure to crowds craving wonder. A raised platform stands at the courtyard center, draped in saffron and indigo banners emblazoned with alchemical sigils. Two rival alchemists, Master Florent in russet robes and Mistress Elsbeth in teal, hover by cauldrons of steaming paste. Their faces ringed with phosphorescent streaks, they prepare to dazzle a throng of nobles, artisans, and curious peasants alike. A mainstream historical fact anchors this spectacle. By the late Renaissance, European cities often hosted alchemy fairs where practitioners displayed medicinal elixirs, metallurgical wonders, and sometimes cosmetics that glowed under torchlight, drawing patrons from near and far. You feel the excitement in the air, as if centuries of marginalia jokes have leapt off the page to stir this crowd. Florent dips a long brush into a first cauldron, a swirling green mercury-free stibnite mixture, and sweeps it across his gauntlet, leaving a trail of muted emerald light. He raises his hand high, and the glow spills into the darkness like a green tide. A quirky tidbit drifts through your mind. Rumor says Florent once adorned a full suit of armor in stibnite paste and strode through the town square, glowing like a livid emerald statue, though historians still argue whether that stunt occurred or was a tavern tale spun from overindulgence in spiced wine. You smirk at the excess of it all. Opposite, Elspeth unveils a second cauldron filled with a deep indigo paste lapis and silver nitrate mixed with rose water, her fingers glinting with sapphire luminescence. She flicks a pinch of powdered barium phosphate into the mix, then sweeps it across wooden masks held by apprentices. The masks glow in concentric circles, each hue dancing to the crackle of torchlight. You lean forward, feeling the crowd's hum vibrate through your bones. A light joke flits through. If modern theme parks had these alchemical rides, they'd sell glow sticks by the wagon load. Florent counters by adding a pinch of ground tiger's eye, a semi-precious mineral rumored to enhance the paste's lifespan. The crowd gasps as his paste shifts from jade green to golden amber in a single sweep. A second laugh surfaces in your mind. You'd call that chameleon glow makeup the ultimate beauty multitasker. Yet beneath your amusement, you sense an undercurrent. These spectacles weren't just showmanship, but battles for patronage and prestige. A band strikes up a lively tune on shawms and tambourines. You follow the music to a smaller side stage where apprentices demonstrate glow in the dark powders on everyday wares, leather gloves, wooden bowls, even lace handkerchiefs. A demonstration apprentice swirls a paste on a wicker basket, and when he flips a torch behind it, the basket appears aflame with ethereal green fire. He bows dramatically, earning applause that reverberates across the courtyard. A fringe rumor tickles your memory. Some apprentices risked trial by fire, literally stoving powders in the baker's ovens to test heat resistance, a practice scholars still debate for safety versus spectacle. Back on the main platform, Florent and Elsbeth step forward for the finale, a contest to coat a giant marble orb in glow paste. Florent applies his green mixture in precise vines, channeling motifs from earlier scriptorium columns. Elsbeth follows with lapis silver paste, tracing constellations that align with the night sky overhead. Each brush stroke seems to hum with craftsmanship and ambition. A scholarly debate phrase drifts historians still argue whether these public alchemical contests spurred real innovation or incentivized dangerous shortcuts to outshine rivals. You press your cheek against the cool stone balustrade, recalling Section 3's Philosopher's Lamp Flicker and Section 5's Secret Unicorn Codex. Tonight's spectacle feels like both public theater and whispered alchemical promise. A third light joke surfaces. You'd pitch this to modern TV as Glow Wars Renaissance Edition, complete with commercial breaks, selling glow balm. Suddenly, merchants appear hawking small jars of glow paste to eager buyers. You hear one vendor extolling guaranteed to shine 3 nights straight, no refund after dawn. You weave through the crowd examining the jars, one labeled Emerald Envy, another Moon's Kiss, each adorned with tiny gilded star doodles reminiscent of Section 4's moonlit visage. You tuck a sample of Moon's Kiss into your satchel. No doubt tomorrow's experiments will refine its binder. A troop of masked mummers arrives, their faces dusted with phosphorescent pigments. They perform a commedia dell'arte routine, zany masks, aglow in shifting hues, melded with acrobatic feats and rapid-fire jokes. You chuckle as the harlequin's eyes shine like twin lanterns, each tilt of his head sending a ripple of light across the stage. A callback to Section 6's court dances warms your soul, from noble balls to street fairs, glow cosmetics bridged class divides in shimmering unity. As the festival's crescendo approaches, Florent and Elsbeth step before the orb, their brushes poised. Torches dim, and the only light is the glowing orb itself. In silence, they apply their final strokes, green vines twisting into silver stars. Then, with a dramatic flourish, they step back. A hush falls. The orb pulses, then dims as one unified glow, combining both formulas into a pale aqua. The crowd erupts in cheers that echo off stone walls and into the night. You exhale, heart racing with wonder. A light joke flits through you, tweet unity and glow with a duet of emoji vines and starbursts. But no tweets, only the memory of crowd's awe and the alchemists' shared triumph. Amid applause, you gather your jars, flasks, and notebooks. The platform empties, apprentices rush to pack away cauldrons, and the courtyard empties too, each reveler carrying pockets of glow like smuggled stars. You pause by the archway, brushing stray glow dust from your sleeve, and whisper to the empty stones, "Well done," before slipping back through the velvet-draped door to the workshop's quiet promise. You slip back into the hushed scriptorium, where narrow windows throw pale shafts of twilight across rows of rolled parchments and quills at rest. The scent of old ink and wood smoke clings to the air, and you settle at a low reading desk carved with alchemical symbols. Before you lies a folio open to margin after margin of tiny looping cipher-hidden formulas scrawled where prying eyes rarely venture. Here, the glow-in-the-dark recipes from Section 5's unicorn codices have been encrypted, each line a promise of luminous beauty, veiled behind arcane symbols. You lean in, tracing a series of interconnected triangles and dots dancing in sepia ink. A mainstream historical fact grounds your fascination by the late Renaissance alchemists and court cosmeticians often used cipher alphabets, letters, transposed symbols, substituted to protect proprietary recipes from competitors, a practice mirrored in scholarly works and early scientific treatises. You recall Section 7's ethicists debating toxicity. Now you see another layer of secrecy guarding both safety and profit. A quirky tidbit flutters to mind. Rumor claims that some practitioners borrowed cipher keys from the Knights Templars' codes, believing that sacred geometry would imbue their cosmetics with spiritual potency. Though historians still argue whether Templar cryptography ever truly influenced cosmetic ciphers, or if this claim was simply forged to lend recipes an aura of forbidden holiness. You snap the thought away and dip your quill in lamp-black ink, ready to crack the code. You begin by identifying repeated symbols, tiny crescents marking ingredient quantities, small suns indicating stirring times. A light joke creeps in. You'd call this cosmetic Sudoku, though, with fewer numbers and more glitter. You sketch a translation table in the margin crescent equals sheaf of stibnite sun equals pinch of lapis, and so forth. The patterns emerge, each decoded symbol a small victory against centuries of secrecy. Next, you encounter a more elaborate cipher, a swirl within a circle annotated by a star. Beneath, in microscript, the phrase "bind with rose oil at vespers" is concealed. You whisper to yourself, "Rose oil at vespers, time to scent your lips and your liturgy," and stifle a sleepy giggle. The swirl motif recalls Section 4's moonlit visage, where you brushed lapis silver paste across your cheeks. Now, you see that swirl's earlier life as a code for ritual timing. You flip to the next folio, where ciphers intertwine with marginal doodles, tiny hearts, stylized eyelashes, even a winking barrel halo, each perhaps a mnemonic or a misdirection for would-be plagiarists. A fringe detail surfaces. Some manuscripts bear hidden watermarks of pressed flower petals, elderflower, or rose bits, believed to authenticate or even enchant the recipes, though historians still debate whether those botanicals served genuine preservation purposes or were mere decorative conceits. You catch a faint floral scent as you turn the page, reminding you of Section 2's elderflower breeze in the cloister. A small cluster of glyphs in the corner stands out, an intertwined M and V, annotated by a barely visible rubric in faded vermilion. You recall Section 1's mortar experiments with barium and calcium here. M and V likely stand for mica and verdigris, an exotic copper compound. You note the adjacent swirl-tiered arrow indicating heat over charcoal, another callback to Section 3's philosopher's lamp. It's a breadcrumb trail of alchemical knowledge linking smoky embers to luminous balms. You lean back, brushing your robes against the desk's carved edge and feeling the echo of Section 6's courtly tapestries. You imagine nobles poring over such codices by candlelight, cherishing the thrill of secret formulas. A second light joke drifts. If medieval court influencers had private Instagram DMs, they'd be trading encrypted recipes like platinum song leaks. But here, the scribe's quills are your DMs across time. A sudden draft wafts in, rattling the parchment's edges and stirring dust motes into golden spirals. You shiver, not from cold, but from the exhilarating hush of forbidden lore. You pinpoint another cipher arc that reads, "Apply at dawn," only reminding you of Section 2's plague bomb timing and Section 4's lunar-only masks. Time, it seems, was always integral, not just ingredient ratios, but celestial choreography. You pause to test your translations. An experimental note beneath a dense block of code reads, "Blend 1 lapis silver with unicorn ash, 3 minutes, no more." You hum a light joke unicorn ash because nothing says high-end skincare like mythical keratin. Yet beneath the jest lies the gravity of innovation and imitation practitioners who cracked these ciphers, gained exclusive access to beauty's frontier. You uncork a small glass vial labeled in shorthand VB, violet beam, its cork sealed with crimson wax. Inside, the powder pales to chalk white. You tap a shard on the desk and watch fine grains scatter across margin translates. Under the lantern's glow, they shimmer faintly, a living testament to hours of deciphering. You press a fingertip to the powder and leave a pale violet print, a secret handshake between you and the manuscript's unknown author. A scholarly debate phrase drifts through your mind. Historians still argue whether these private ciphers were mainly commercial protections or part of alchemical ritual secrecy. Esoteric safeguards meant to preserve sacred knowledge from the profane. Here, in this folio's margins, both impulses entwine. You feel the weight of that tension as you trace another glyph, a small triangle annotated mix at midnight in rosewood mortar. That detail echoes Section 5's midnight egg yolk charms, completing a circle of coded continuity. You replace the notebook on the shelf, its spine creaking like an ancient sigh. The hush returns, and you realize you've been holding your breath. You close your eyes and picture the path from Section 1's first phosphor mortar to this final cipher, centuries of experimentation, revelation, and obfuscation, all inked into these pages. Before you leave, you make a final margin note in your own hand, decoded for posterity hope. No one curses me with bleary eyeballs. A third light joke flickers. Medieval hackers would applaud and then hunt you for leaking their glow formulas. You carefully reseal the folio and slide it back into its niche, as though returning a sleeping dragon to its cavern. You step away, joining the twilight corridor, where a single tallow lamp hums against the stone. The coded words rest now secure once more, waiting for the next curious mind to risk deciphering them. You tip your satchel against the desk, feeling the files jostle softly, a secret glow awaiting dawn's reveal. You exhale the scribe's whispered voices, fading into the hush of closing parchment. In their codes, you've glimpsed both the ingenuity and the guarded souls of Renaissance alchemists, each cipher a heartbeat in the story of glow cosmetics. You slip into the corridor's dim embrace, carrying the glow of secret formulas and the promise of tomorrow's experiments. You slip into the cool nave of the monastery chapel, the hush here, more solemn than any scriptorium debate or festival spectacle. Lantern flames flicker against stone pillars carved with vine motifs, their grooves echoing. Sections 2 and 7's frost markers and courtly vines alike. You settle onto a hard wooden pew, brushing your fingers along the carved ends and glancing toward the high altar where a single candle burns in red glass. Tonight, the pulpit will host the bishop's sermon on the moral hazards of these glow-in-the-dark cosmetics, what the church calls chapel contraband vanity's sorcerous cousin. Above you, stained glass windows, halo saints and jewel tones eerily lighting the aisle and shifting prisms. You recall Section 6's courtly dancers whose faces glittered like living constellations, and now wonder how such pageantry sits under ecclesiastical scrutiny. A mainstream historical fact grounds you by the mid-16th century Catholic clergy across Europe issued edicts condemning cosmetic artifice, painted cheeks, and luminous powders, warning that such ornaments distracted the soul from devotion and bordered on witchcraft. You inhale the incense-laced air, tasting frankincense's resinous sweetness, mingled with vestal candle smoke, and brace for the sermon's weight. The bishop ascends the pulpit, his mitre gleaming in gold leaf, and clears his throat. His voice is deep but gentle, captivating as a lullaby and firm as a crozier's tap. Brethren, he begins, we gather not only to pray, but to guard our hearts against temptations of pride and illusion. Cosmetics that glow in darkness may mimic heavenly light, yet they threaten to blind souls to true sanctity. A quill scribbling echo drifts through your mind. If medieval podiums had live tweet feeds, this one would read, "Kava glow no more." You stifle a smile at the mental hashtag. A quirky tidbit flits by. Rumor holds that one zealous friar once confiscated a countess's secret jars of phosphorescent makeup during a midnight raid, burning them on the very altar's steps, though historians still argue whether that dramatic incident was actual record or rumor spun by gossiping novices. You glance at the collection plate, wondering if any feigned contrition paid for burned pots of barium. The bishop gestures to a painted panel behind him, an angel chastising a gleaming mask, its eyes full of hollow vanity. He cites the Council of Trent's canons forbidding adulterous adornment during Mass, an official decree stating that makeup is a snare of Satan, leading hearts toward the flesh and away from Christ. You feel the hush deepen as though the decorated walls themselves lean in to listen. A light joke flits through your thoughts. You'd love to see the bishop's face after applying Section 4's moonlight lapis paste. Perhaps he'd glow with righteous indignation. Instead, you keep your expressions prayerfully neutral palms resting lightly on your lap, recalling the hush of Section 5's secret unicorn codices, where such contraband recipes were hidden. The bishop's sermon turns to the sorcery question. Illuminescent powders, he says, flout natural order and dabble in dark arts. If one can conjure light upon flesh, who's to say they won't conjure demons? A scholarly debate phrase surfaces. Historians still debate whether Catholic condemnations of cosmetics genuinely stemmed from fear of witchcraft, or served more to curb female agency and consolidate clerical authority. You sense the tension lacing each cautionary word. A procession of acolytes moves down the side aisle, their censers swinging, brass clinking softly. You catch sight of faint smudges on a priest's sleeve, perhaps a stray streak of glow paste from a prior masquerade. You lean forward, curious, was he bribed with emerald envy, or simply seeking his own after-hours enchantment? A second light joke flickers. Maybe he's planning Section 3's philosopher's lamp demonstration in the sacristy, illuminating transubstantiation with phosphor for dramatic effect. The bishop's gaze sweeps the nave. True light, he intones, shines from the heart. Artificial luminance may charm the eye, but dims the spirit. You trace the pew in front of you, feeling its polished wood. A callback warms your mind. Remember, Section 8's glowing masks, melding green and silver. Here the bishop asks you to choose interior radiance over exterior shimmer. You tuck that thought away like a prayer. He continues, "Let no woman attend the sacraments adorned in these cosmetics, nor man be so beguiled as to praise such artifice." The words float through incense smoke like admonitions carved in air. You inhale through your nose and exhale slowly, recalling Section 2's plague balms, promising spiritual protection through glow. Now that glow is recast as vanity and an opening to evil. You wonder, when does protection become temptation? A third light joke surfaces. Imagine a confessional booth lined with jars of glow powder. "Forgive me, Father, for I have shimmered." Yet you remain still, respecting the seminar's solemnity, even as you marvel at its dramatic stakes. The bishop invokes a fringe detail. In some lands, he warns wicked women have used phosphor masks to dupe unwitting suitors posing as spectral sirens in moonlit orchards. You recall Section 4's moonlit visage and Section 8's masquerade of glowing masks. Historians still argue whether such seductions ever took place or were mere cautionary tales to shame women's mystique. You shiver at the idea of a glowing enchantress luring knights into marshes. As the sermon nears its close, the bishop calls upon the faithful to cleanse their cosmetics. Pour your powders into the holy font he commands. Let water wash away this artifice. You feel a tug in your chest. Do you sacrifice Section 2's plague protections? Section 3's embers, Section 7's stibnite defenses, all gifts of alchemy. The hush is so thick, you can almost taste it. You slide from the pew and move down the nave toward the baptismal font. A gentle but steady line forms penitent nobles, masked courtiers, and curious merchants, clutching small jars in trembling hands. You step forward, heart humming, with conflict is shedding these pigments, a surrender to ecclesiastical power, or a return to natural grace. You pause at the font's edge and scan your satchel. A jar of Luna's embrace gleams from within, a relic of Section 5's secret unicorn codex. You lift it, weighing its promise of otherworldly radiance against the bishop's warning of sorcery's snare. A light joke emerges. Perhaps the next sermon will condemn statues of living saints who glow in the dark. You smile sadly and tilt the jar, letting a fine stream of shimmering paste drift into the font's clear water. The droplets scatter, like fallen stars dissolving in ripples of holy light. Others follow suit, emerald, sapphire, amber hues swirling away. The font's surface catches the lantern glow, a fleeting rainbow before the pigments fade. You whisper a silent benediction. May this light return to heaven. A callback to Section 9's coded ciphers arises, once hidden, now cleansed. A ritual undoing of secrets. The bishop raises his crozier and in tones of final blessing, depart in purity, clothed in true light. The nave's arches absorb his words like stone prayers. You turn to leave the echo of your footsteps soft against the marble. Outside the chapel, the courtyard's glow has waned. Only the moon above and distant torches remain. You sense the alchemy's cycle from clandestine codices to public spectacle and now to ecclesiastical censure. Yet in that tension, the legacy endures recipes, refined debates, sparked, and human yearning for luminous beauty unextinguished. You step into the silent cloister, the night's hush wrapping you once more. In your satchel, the emptied jars remind you of each section's discoveries and conflicts. You tuck Luna's embrace into a hidden pocket, a quiet rebellion against draft decrees. Tomorrow, you'll revisit those formulas, perhaps under the cover of dawn's safe light. For now, the Church's condemnation is a solemn counterpoint to the glow's promise, a reminder that every spark of invention must withstand the scrutiny of conscience and creed. You pause beneath the vine-carved arch and whisper, to the still air, may true light guide both hand and heart. Then with a steady step, you slip away, carrying the weight of moral debate alongside the faint hum of phosphorescent potential. You slip through a narrow side door onto the cobbled quay, where salt-whipped breezes tug at your cloak, and the gulls' cries mingle with creaking masts. Lanterns swing from gangplanks, their glow hesitating against the fog rolling in from the sea. Here, in this throbbing port, the true life-blood of glow-in-the-dark cosmetics pulses through hidden channels. Merchants smuggling phosphorescent powders along trade routes, like alchemical gold cloaked in barrels of pepper and crates of silk. You fall in behind a stout merchant in russet robes, his cart laden with crates stamped oriental spices. Beneath sacks of saffron, you glimpse small wooden boxes marked with arcane symbols, your secret glow powders tucked away from prying eyes. A mainstream historical fact anchors your steps by the mid-16th century Venetian and Genoese traders dominated Mediterranean commerce, exporting precious pigments such as lapis lazuli and vermilion alongside exotic spices, setting the stage for glow powder smuggling disguised as spice trade. You inhale the bouquet of clove and cardamom, marveling at how easily barium phosphate blends in with nutmeg's earthy tang. A quirky tidbit drifts through your mind. Rumor claims a band of Maltese smugglers once stamped glow powder shipments with the emblem of a dancing mermaid to confuse customs officials who thought they contained enchanted fish scales. Though historians still argue whether mermaid seals were real deception or whimsical scribbles in log books. You nudge the merchant's elbow and murmur, "I'll bet customs thought they smelled underwater." He winks and points to a waiting rowboat slung with a rope ladder. You climb aboard, balancing crates as the oars dip into brine-green water. The merchant hums a sea shanty off-key, mixing old salt humor with new ambition. We'll land at Smyrna by dawn, selling our glow powders for spices 12-fold their weight. A light joke surfaces you'd call that mermaid's markup, though modern entrepreneurs might balk at such profit margins. As the boat scuds toward a larger galleon, you scan the horizon for the fleur-de-lis flag of French traders, one sign that the next transfer will occur under cover of darkness. You recall Section 8's festival jars of Moon's Kiss and Section 2's plague bombs crossing land routes. Here, maritime lanes amplify the scale. A callback warms your mind. Section 5's Unicorn Horn Ash Codex might fetch a princely sum in Cairo or Constantinople. You step onto the galleon's deck, wooden planks slick with sea spray, and shoulder a crate into a dim hold. Below, barrels of pepper and silk chests line the space. You ease a box of glow powder onto a hidden shelf behind fish oil barrels, no olive oil, lest the shimmer dissolve too soon. A second light joke flits. If modern smugglers had GPS trackers, they'd just ping glow stash while calling it special cargo. Instead, you tuck the barnacled seal of anonymity around the hatch and climb back to the deck. Above sailors' lashed sails as a squall gathers. You shelter under the mizzenmast, counting crates, stibnite-based powders for plague balm, mica-flecked lapis blends for courtly masks, and that secret sacrum lumini unicorn ash. Each chest carries its own story, from Section 3's philosopher's lamp compounds to Section 6's courtly blushes. You savor the irony. What once glowed only in grand halls now trades for pepper in distant markets. The galleon creaks and groans, struggling into the wind. You lean past the shrouds, watching lantern reflections jitter across dark waves. Of fringe rumor drifts some Ottoman pirates reportedly paid handsomely for glow powders to mark their Jolly Roger at night so they could board merchant ships under spectral light, though historians still debate whether pirate captains truly prized luminosity over cannon fire. You shiver, thinking of phosphor-coated flags cutting through moonlit mist. Below deck, an apprentice lights a single lantern to inspect manifests. You slip in beside him, sliding your finger down rows of spice crates. When he turns, you flash a grin and point to a hidden compartment, nodding toward your glow powder crates. He nods back, eyes flickering with clandestine pride. The hold's stale air tastes of brine, spice, and promise, each box a ticket to another port's eager purse. At dawn, you disembark at Smyrna's bustling quay, where bazaars explode with color, indigo silks, vermilion carpets, and heaps of golden saffron. You carry your crate through winding alleys shaded by grapevines, each vendor eyeing your saffron box. You approach a spice merchant whose stall overflows with cinnamon quills and caraway seeds. With a friendly cough and a hidden gesture, you slide your crate onto a small table. He lifts the lid, exposing phosphor powders and clay pots lined with wax paper. His eyes widen like moons at midnight. A light joke drifts through. You'd call this glow, and tell though modern influencers might live stream such deals. They haggle 2 sacks of cinnamon for 1 jar of lapis silver paste, plus a silver denarius for market fees. You nod, calculating profit in your head enough to fund weeks of clandestine lab trials. The spice merchant wipes his brow with a lace handkerchief dusted in phosphor glow, then wraps the jar in parchment and tucks it under his robe. As you disappear into the market crowd, you watch him vanish into a spice-laden doorway jar agleam with hidden radiance. You retrace your steps to the docks crate, lightening as shipments disperse across city and caravan. A caravan trader from Persia greets you at the city gate, his Alton coins jangling as he examines a jar of emerald stibnite paste. He offers a string of pearls for 3 jars, an enticing exchange that promises to underwrite your next codex expiration. A third light joke surfaces. You'd call that pearls before swine, but in this case, pearls for poison alchemical barter, perfect for palace intrigues. You load your remaining crates onto camelback, each crate labeled in code, a vine symbol for stibnite, a crescent for lapis, a star for unicorn ash, echoing Section 9's manuscript ciphers. The camels kneel, surging forward as the caravan snakes through sun-baked plains. You settle into the lead camel's saddle horizon, burning gold, and think tomorrow these powders will grace sultanas' cheeks in Bursa noblewomen's gowns in Vienna, and perhaps pilgrims' masks in Jerusalem. A scholarly debate phrase drifts through your thoughts. Historians still argue whether glow powder trade remained a niche curiosity for elites or blossomed into a broader commercial network resembling early pharmaceutical distribution. You glance at the caravan's tail spice sacks, silk bales, and glow crates, jostling in unison, feeling the pulse of commerce across continents. You lean back and let the desert wind slick your face the horizon, a silent witness to your clandestine cargo. The dunes whisper tales of trade routes carving across civilization's tapestry. You pocket a small vial left over verdant vigil stibnite powder, feeling its shimmer under your fingertip. It's a reminder that every market, fair, and caravan trail carries the glow of knowledge, risk, and restless ambition. As the sun rises higher, the caravan silhouettes stretch long and lean. You inhale the heat and spice-dusted air, sensing how glow powders have traveled far from secret codices and festival halls to become commodities hunted by merchants, courtiers, and pirates alike. You close your eyes and picture sections 1 through 9, mortar experiments, plague salves, philosophers' lamps, moonlit masks, secret codices, court spectacles, ethical debates, festival pageants, and encrypted recipes, now all feeding into this grand trade. You open your eyes, scanning the dunes. Each grain of sand seems to catch light like a billion tiny phosphors. A light joke flutters. If only those dunes could glow at night, caravans would never lose their way. Yet here you are, guiding your cargo toward the next horizon, a smuggler of light in a world still dazzled by shadows. You pat the camel's neck, feeling its warm muscle beneath the tack. It nudges forward, eager to carry glow powders and spices across the world. You settle more comfortably in the saddle and murmur to the desert wind, "May this glow reach every corner of earth." The caravan crests the nearest dune, and the world unfolds before you, endless, sunlit, and waiting. You step into the hushed twilight garden behind the abbey's infirmary, where moonlit fountains whisper against clipped boxwood hedges. The scent of night-blooming jasmine mingles with damp earth as you trudge along flagstones slick with dew. Here, alchemists and mystics once gathered under shrouded oaks to test their mystical cosmetics elixirs, and balms said not merely to glow but to grant spiritual visions and ward off evil spirits. You settle on a stone bench carved with astrological symbols, planets, and zodiac glyphs, echoing Section 4's moonlit visage and Section 8's festival of light, and prepare to explore beauty that bridges corporeal glamour and the unseen realm. You uncork a small phial labeled Oculus Australis, its neck dribbled with faintly glowing violet serum. A mainstream historical fact anchors this marvel. Renaissance natural philosophers often blended nutmeg alum and trace phosphor to create the eye of heaven ointment, which they believed could sharpen inner sight and protect wearers from malefic influences. You inhale its spicy, sweet aroma, clove musk, and mineral tang, and feel a shiver of expectancy as you dab a dot between your eyebrows. A quirky tidbit flits through your mind. Legend claims that one Florentine alchemist painted small astrological charts on his cheeks in phosphorescent pastes, believing the star's essence would embed in the skin and grant prophetic dreams. Though historians still argue whether such nocturnal visions reflected genuine mysticism or mere placebo-fueled anecdotes. You press the serum, gently feeling its cool shimmer settle like dew across your brow. Above you, an owl hoots softly, and you recall Section 2's plague salve circles and Section 7's ethical debates. Here, beauty intersects with belief. A light joke drifts by. You'd call this moon-roof serum, though in modern skincare, it'd require a 7-step routine. You close your eyes and let the serum's glow pulse in, sync with your heartbeat, each throb a quiet invitation to inner revelation. Next, you lift a chipped porcelain bowl containing aegis of light, a balm infused with powdered silver crushed pearl, and a tincture of sacred frankincense. The mixture glows pale gold, even in shadow. A mainstream historical fact lends depth. Medieval apothecaries sometimes burned incense to spiritually cleanse spaces, and distilled resins found their way into cosmetics touted to ward off plague demons and evil spirits alike, a perfumed armor against both physical and metaphysical ailments. You scoop a pearl-sized bead of balm and trace it along your cheekbone in a slow arc. A fringe detail surfaces. Some mystic texts assert that if one anointed their pulse points with such balms at the precise hour of Saturn's rise, one could glimpse the guardian spirit assigned at birth. Though historians still debate whether these astrological cosmetics ever yielded genuine visions or simply embodied ritualistic theater. You trace the balm's winking trail, imagining a momentary shimmer, revealing hidden auras. A second light joke emerges. You'd market this as Aura Starter Kit, complete with 12-step planetary instructions and a side of ambrosia. Yet beneath the jest lies the solemn ritual. These balms inspired trial under candlelit vigil, silent chants murmured in ancient tongues, and the hush of hearts straining for the slightest spiritual shimmer. You turn to the fountain's crystal basin and dip your fingertip into its cool water to cleanse off the serum's edge on your forehead, watching the glow ripple through the water like captured starlight. A mainstream fact reminds you that medieval fountains often blended gemstones into their basins, believing the water's contact would imbue travelers with protective virtues, another form of mystical cosmetics offered not on the skin, but in the cup. You taste the water's crisp sweetness, feeling a pulse of refreshment that feels both bodily and soul deep. A quick fringe rumor crosses your thoughts. Some pilgrims claim that drinking fountain water charged with crushed moonstones could render the drinker immune to nightmares, though historians still argue whether those lunar elixirs were sincere folk remedies or mythic tales spun around pilgrims' route. You swallow a small sip and chuckle at the notion of nightmare-proof elixir. A hush falls as a distant bell tolls vespers approaching, and you gather your mystical vials, oculus, astralis, and aegis of light. Each glows softly in the gloaming. You recall Section 5's secret unicorn codices and Section 9's ciphered margins. Here, hidden lore meets public ritual. You slip the vials into your satchel, their glow imprinting on your palm like stardust. You rise and drift along the garden path, lined with carved stone lanterns bearing tiny stars and crescents. A scholarly debate phrase drifts through your mind. Historians still debate whether mystical cosmetics served primarily as psychological comfort for anxieties of the era, or whether belief in their spiritual efficacy carried genuine transformative power. You press your thumb to one lantern's carving, feeling the cool stone under your skin, and consider faith and formula intertwine more tightly than any modern science can untangle. The walkway leads you to a broad arch opening onto the cloister's central courtyard. Shadows pool under crisp moonlight, and you watch your own reflection in the calm fountain mirror. Your cheeks shimmer faintly, a silent echo of the mystical balms you've tested. You feel an unexpected warmth, as if your skin still hums with unseen light. A third light joke pops up. If medieval beauty pages had comment sections they'd read, 1010 would conjure prophecy again. You laugh softly, pausing at the courtyard's rim. Before you depart, you crouch and trace a vine motif carved into the fountain's base, an echo of Section 8's festival vines and Section 10's chapel allegories. You whisper upward, "May these balms guide souls as much as they adorn skin." Then, tucking your satchel, you tiptoe back through the cloister corridors, the hush of mystical promise settling into your mind like a lullaby. You slip back into the workshop's stony embrace, where broken plaster jars and scorched parchment litter the floor like relics of failed miracles. The air hangs heavy with the acrid tang of burnt resin and faint ozone remnants of alchemical mishaps that left more than just bruised egos in their wake. You trudge past a blackened brazier and settle on a low stool marred by scorch marks from flare-ups ready to chronicle the chemical catastrophes that scarred early glow-in-the-dark cosmetic trials. You reach for a scrap of vellum pinned to a copper board, an accident report scrawled in a shaky hand. It reads, "Mistress Elsbeth's verdant vigil mask erupted in violet sparks upon first exposure to damp air scorching apprentice's brow." A mainstream historical fact grounds this drama by the late Renaissance alchemists recognized that some phosphorescent compounds, especially those containing arsenic or heavy metals, could spontaneously combust or fume toxic vapors if mixed improperly or stored in humid conditions. You inhale the bitter metallic scent clinging to those parchments and trace your finger over an inked blot labeled Incident Number 17. A quirky tidbit surfaces legend says one poor scribe attempting Section 3's philosopher's lamp inadvertently used saltpeter instead of barium sulfate, causing his powder to detonate in a dazzling but highly dangerous flash that singed his eyebrows off in a single stroke, though historians still argue whether that explosion truly occurred or was a cautionary tale to scare apprentices away from DIY catalysis. You wince at the mental image of a singed, eyebrowless scribe waving a singed quill in protest. You flip to another page detailing the great green blister of 1592, where noble patrons who dabbled in stibnite lime balms woke with hands so swollen they could no longer hold goblets. A second mainstream historical fact circles your thoughts. Antimony compounds like stibnite were known for their medicinal virtues, but also their propensity to irritate or burn skin when left in prolonged contact, a duality that led some physicians to prescribe cold water compresses even as they lauded antimony's flamboyant glow. You swallow, recalling the pang of stibnite lime balm warming your temple under plague shadow in Section 2. The vellum continues. Subject B developed pustules after nightly application of blood of the earth, blush. Physician prescribed poultice of rose petals and goat's whey. You close your eyes as if tasting goat's whey in your mouth. The combination of goat's tang and rose's sweetness feels like a medieval beauty smoothie gone awry. A light joke drifts through your mind. You call that beauty gone beastly, though today's skincare bloggers would devolve into flame wars over nourish versus purge. Wading deeper, you uncover reports of burns, caustic rashes, and in one dreadful case, a small fire ignited when alchemists stored mercury-laden unguents near iron fire tongs that sparked under friction. A fringe detail arises. Rumor holds that a jealous apprentice once tossed a pinch of phosphorus paste into his master's brazier purely for mischief, resulting in a ghostly green blaze that licked at the rafters. But historians still debate whether that prank ever blazed or simply flickered in unscrupulous memoirs. You press your palm to the bench's edge, feeling the wood's rough scars and imagining the heat that carved them. You lean toward a battered distillation flask emblazoned with a faded glyph, a remnant of Section 3's philosopher's lamp. Inside, a ring of blackened residue hints at repeated flashpoints. You recall how heated barium compounds glowed in cool darkness, yet here you see the toll of repeated ignitions, an unholy testament to trial and error. A light joke surfaces. If only those chemicals had a test setting, you'd avoid singed eyebrows and rafters alight with emerald flames. Across the desk, a narrow drawer creaks open, revealing glass eyedroppers, stained emerald and cobalt. You lift one, marveling at its brittle pitted glass, an echo of delicate doomed hope. The report pinned inside reads, Trial 42. Moon's kiss, serum applied too thickly above eyelid. Subject's vision blurred until dawn. A mainstream historical fact underscores this folly silver nitrate, when used near the eye, can cause temporary blindness or severe irritation, prompting some physicians to ban cosmetic application around the eyes altogether. You close the droplet between fingertips, noting the faint spark of residual glow like a forbidden promise. You look up at the workshop's vaulted ceiling, where soot-blackened beams bear marks from caustic vapors and stray sparks. A callback to Section 8's festival spectacle shimmers in your mind. Behind the awe and amusement lay hidden scars apprentices with singed hair, court physicians lamenting Margaret de Medici's permanent pallor after a silver sulfide peel. A second light joke emerges. You'd headline this beauty burnout, though no modern warranty could cover such medieval meltdowns. You shift to a small wash basin stained green with oxidized copper salts. The basin holds mounds of spent paste verdigris lime mixtures used in Section 8's comedia masks. The basin's lip bears a notched tally. 70 buckets drained, 5 saved. You imagine 5 successful batches amidst a sea of toxic waste. A fringe detail surfaces. Some alchemists claim that washing away verdigris residues in seawater yielded a second, subtler glow, though historians still argue whether that practice revived any radiance or merely diluted toxins into the harbor. A cough rattles through the chamber as you near drawers labeled experimental errors. You pull one open to find charred talismans, crucifix pendants coated in failed aegis of light, balms, their carvings now blackened by resin misfires. You pick one up, feeling the char rough against your palm, and muse even sacred objects could not escape alchemical miscalculations. A third light joke surfaces. You'd gift this as a pre-loved glow pendant, though contemporary Etsy sellers might cackle at such dubious provenance. You settle on a low stool and unroll a scrap of animal parchment, a personal letter from an early alchemist recounting his own near-fatal exposure. My hands glowed so fiercely I could not conceal them by day. I removed the paste, only to find my palm etched with phosphor burns, reminders of ambition's cost. You swallow, feeling the skin on your own fingertips prickle from past experiments. The letter ends with a scholarly debate phrase. Historians still argue whether such self-experiments were driven by hubris or undeniable necessity in an era where secrecy and spectacle danced hand in hand. You stand and cross to a wooden rack of labeled jars. One reads, trial, mercury blush. Another trial, calcium phosphatide. Most are empty, their seals broken and wax cracked. You lift a jar labeled trial, unicorn ash blend, a nod to Section 5's codex, and find it half full. Its contents glow faintly like embers in ash. You ponder the resilience of knowledge even in failure, one failed formula preserved for posterity, waiting for a safer hand to refine it. You press your palm to the desk's edge, bracing for a final reflection. The workshop's hush seems alive with ghosts, apprentices with scarred palms, noblewomen with pallid cheeks, clergy condemning vanity. Yet in those same ashes lies the spark of innovation, the indomitable urge to coax beauty and light from earth's depths. A light joke flickers. You call this beauty lab of doom, though the real terror lay in what failures taught about alchemical boundaries. You gather your notes, charred talisman, and phosphor-etched droppers, carrying them like talismans themselves. As you slip toward the corridor's arch, the workshop's gloom yields to the cloister's dim glow. You whisper to the stone floor, may our next experiments learn from these scars and step into the night's hush. Each footstep a quiet vow to blend brilliance with caution. You slip into the apothecary's tranquil greenhouse, where narrow beams of morning sun filter through oiled linen panes, painting mottled patterns on earthen floors. The air is thick with the scent of basil thyme and crushed petals, far from the metallic tang of stibnite or the acrid burn of barium compounds. Here, in this verdant sanctuary, you witness the slow decline of glow-in-the-dark cosmetics as alchemists and chemists embrace safer, earth-derived pigments. A row of terracotta pots lines a low bench, each brimming with plant madder roots, welled leaves, and indigo-tinged flowers. You kneel and dip a fresh burlap sack into a vessel labeled rubia tinctorum, lifting strands of deep red root-stained crimson by sun and soil. A mainstream historical fact grounds this transition. By the early 17th century, European dyers and apothecaries began favoring botanical pigments derived from madder cochineal insects and welled for their predictable hues, non-toxicity, and civil market availability, gradually displacing exotic mineral luminescence once prized in courtly circles. You inhale the earthy, gummy aroma of the madder and feel relief at the absence of chemical tang. A quirky tidbit flits through your thoughts. Rumor has it that a prominent alchemist turned dyer once set a laboratory and court mask ablaze when he mistakenly heated luminous barium compounds instead of madder root, sending emerald embers raining onto noble gowns, though historians still argue whether that conflagration truly spurred the botanical pivot or simply added sensational drama to a practical shift. You shake your head, grateful for the stability of vegetal dyes. You gather a handful of welled leaves yellow with sunlit brilliance and crush them in a mortar scarred by centuries of pigment grinding. As you press, bright yellow sap oozes across your palm like filtered sunlight. A mainstream fact resonates welled Reseda luteola yielded one of Europe's most reliable yellow dyes, its flavonoid constituents offering color-fast brilliance without the hazards of heavy metal toxicity. You trace the yellow smear on your finger, tasting faint, herbaceous bitterness. A light joke surfaces. You'd call this sunshine in a mortar, though modern labels might balk at flavonoid-rich facial tint. Instead, you blend the crushed weld with a dab of beeswax from the infirmary's hives, melting and stirring until the paste coats the pestle in golden sheen. The result is a luminous but natural cosmetic that glows softly under sunlight rather than phosphor's harsh arc. You turn to a bench of cochineal-infused tinctures, each bottle bearing a scarlet droplet sticker. You lift a vial labeled coccinea, careful of its sticky rim, and swirl a drop into a small bowl of wax ointment. A fringe detail emerges, cochineal derived from crushed insects, native to the Americas, produced a crimson pigment so prized that it rivaled and later surpassed cinnabar's expense, though historians still debate whether cochineal's rise owed more to trade politics than its safer, richer hue. You swirl until the paste glows radiant red, a seductive contrast to earlier mineral ambers. A callback warms your mind. Section 6 is Blood of the Earth. Blush had its fervent charm, but now you hold cochineal's stable, vibrant legacy, no tremors or rashes in sight. You tickle your lips with a fingertip dab, tasting the subtle sweetness that glazes your palate. Across the greenhouse's far side, a bench holds powdered indigo leaves tied in linen sachets. You untie one and watch cerulean dust escape like mist. A mainstream fact underscores its appeal. Indigo extracted from woad Satis tinctoria, or imported indigofera tinctoria, yielded brilliant blues that adorned garments and cosmetics alike, offering a non-toxic alternative to old lapis mixtures and heavy metal salts. You inhale the green herb musk and rub a bit on your eyelid, its matte blue light, as soothing as any luminescent flash. A second light joke drifts. You'd market this as eco-indie glow, though the irony of indie in an old-world cloister amuses you. You blend the indigo dust with the weld paste in a stripe across a nearby test tile, a nod to tricolor makeup palettes centuries before color theory's birth. Beyond botanical shifts, you spy a ledger propped open on a windowsill. Its entries document gradual disposal orders, all barium and arsenic compounds to be purged by day of St. Hildegard. It reads. A scholarly debate phrase emerges. Historians still argue whether such purges reflected genuine public health concerns or the scapegoating of alchemists amid changing court fashions. You trace the inked directive feeling, the weight of institutional shift. You gather fresh sprigs of rosemary and lavender from the garden corner, crushing their buds to release aromatic oils. A mainstream fact surfaces aromatherapy and pest-repellent rolls of such herbs were well known to medieval and Renaissance apothecaries, who blended botanical oils into cosmetics both for fragrance and subtle antiseptic benefits. You blend the oils with your cochineal weld indigo paste, creating a multi-hued balm, scented like summer fields. A third light joke bubbles. You'd advertise this as botanical Renaissance palette, though modern consumers might balk at insect-derived dyes. Yet here, insect plant and nail stone share equal stage from cochinea to Reseda Beauty's palette, turned Earth's bounty into living color. You press a palmful of the tricolor paste into a small tureen jar and seal with wax. The jar's surface catches sunlit beams glinting with red, yellow, and blue ribbons, swirling in wax. A callback blooms. Sections 1 through 4's mineral luminescence gave way to sections 12 and 13's mystical balms. Now, botanical hues reclaim the brush-safe, vivid, and time-tested. You close the ledger and lean back on a sun-warmed bench. The greenhouse's warmth soothes your muscles. You note how the alchemist's early zeal for phosphor powders both dazzled and endangered, yet botanical dyes offer durable beauty unburdened by toxicity. You inhale the herbal warmth, feeling your own pulse slow. In the corner, apprentices hang weathered jars of old glow compounds on a purged shelf, marking them for decommission. You approach and run a finger across a jar of barium paste, its label half faded. You pause, whispering thanks for its spark of wonder, even as you usher it toward obsolescence. You turn to the exit, pausing beneath an arch of climbing roses. You whisper a lullaby of gratitude to these flowers and roots nature's pigments, lighting a safer path forward. Tomorrow, you'll catalog the purged powders in Section 15's final ledger. For now, you cradle your botanical jar against your chest and step into the cloister's gentle dusk. You slip into the alabaster-walled archive where the dawn sun filters through high windows and dust motes dance like tiny glow specks in the air. Here, centuries of manuscripts rest in oak cabinets, their vellum pages whispering stories of alchemical ambition and botanical brilliance. You settle at a broad table marred with ink stains from ages of scribes, and spread before you a sequence of ledgers from Section 1's first mortar experiments to Section 14's botanical pivot. Tonight, you piece together the legacy of radiance, how Renaissance glow cosmetics birthed a lineage that shines on in modern beauty innovations. You open in the earliest folio, its margins still faintly smudged with phosphor-dust. A mainstream historical fact anchors your reflection. By the 18th century, many glow powders had fallen out of favor, displaced by safe botanical dyes and early synthetic pigments. Yet the fascination with luminance never died, re-emerging in 20th century radium creams. And finally, today's bioluminescent skincare trends. You trace the faint acid etch of a note reading "Glow cometh again," and feel the thrill of discovery bridging centuries. A quirky tidbit drifts to mind. Rumor claims that Marie Antoinette once commissioned a glow-in-the-dark fan to discreetly signal confidantes at midnight, though historians still argue whether that fan ever truly glowed or simply held phosphorescent feathers to inspire court gossip. You smile at the historical resonance of vanity's light in hidden corners of power. You turn the page to a more modern ledger titled Radium Face Cream 1910. Its entries, in spidery script, lamenting radiator's cost, but praising ethereal nightlight skin. You inhale the powdered page's brittle perfume, an echo of Section 6's court blush and Section 9's secret codices, and wobble slightly at the knowledge that glow's allure led to tragic outcomes, radiation burns, and fatal illnesses. A scholarly debate phrase surfaces. Historians still debate whether the early radium cosmetic craze was driven more by scientific hope or speculative opportunism. A lesson in beauty's double edge. Next, you glimpse a mid-20th century notebook detailing luminous lotion, using safe, FDA-approved photoluminescent pigments. Strontium illuminate microbeads that glow for hours after UV exposure. You recall Section 3's philosopher's lamp and its barium calcite glow. Now you see those early alchemists as unwitting pioneers of modern glow-in-the-dark materials. A light joke pops up. You'd market this as Glow 2.0. Now with Wi-Fi, though, of course, with fewer 2-minute post-exposure alerts. On your right lies a glossy leaflet from 21st century skincare boasting bioluminescent nocturne serum derived from deep-sea algae. You run your finger across the slick page, its synthetic sheen a far cry from Section 12's mystical cosmetics, promising visions and warding spirits. A mainstream fact illuminates the leap. Modern biotech has indeed harnessed genes from jellyfish to engineer glowing compounds for cosmetics and textiles, turning oceanic wonder into daily ritual. You press the leaflet to your palm and feel the pulse of scientific lineage. A callback warms your mind. Section 1's first phosphor mortar, Section 5's unicorn codices, Section 8's festival spectacles, all converging in this continuum of curiosity and creativity. You sense how each era's discoveries built on prior risks and ambitions, from toxic mercury blush to safe bioluminescent serums. A second light joke flits. Glow got your tongue. Try our 24-hour luminous lip stain. Perhaps you'd pitch that to modern beauty vloggers. You lay out a series of small jars along the table, each labeled with dates and formulas. You dab a fingertip into each mineral phosphorus, botanical dyes, under blue light, radium-era emulsions, clearly relics for museums, photoluminescent polymers, and glowing algae serums. Each tickles your senses differently. Chemical bite, herbal warmth, metallic chill, bioorganic whisper. A fringe detail emerges as some contemporary herbalists promote moonlit garden balms infused with flower extracts, activated by moonlight's UV spectrum, an echo of Section 4's lunar visage. Historians still debate whether such modern moonlight-activated products hold any real photonic magic or simply cater to romantic nostalgia. You swirl through the jars, pulling one final file marked Future Glow Research. Inside, a clear gel holds microscopic holographic beads poised to refract light in shifting hues. You smile at the promise tomorrow's radiance built on yesterday's experiments and today's ethics. A third light joke drifts. You'd call this glow into the future, though the patent would surely outshine your bank account. You stand and stretch the archive's high ceiling, echoing your movement. You feel a faint afterimage on your hand, where each glow sample touched ghosts of pigments dancing across skin. You recall Section 7's toxicity debates, from mercury tremors to arsenic rumors. Each generation confronted glow's hazards before forging safer paths. In this moment, you appreciate the arc of innovation ambition, tempered by ethics secrets unveiled and knowledge passed from codex to laboratory to consumer. You close the ledger sequence and gather your jars, notebooks, and leaflets. The table's surface seems to hum with residual light, as though memory itself glows. You tuck the modern biotech serum into your bag alongside the humble matter-weld indigo trio from Section 14, botanical and biotechnological hope, merging into a shared legacy. You pause at the archive door and look back at the rows of cabinets, each a silent keeper of alchemical experiments, courtly spectacles, clandestine codices, ethical debates, festival triumphs, and botanical revolutions. The air thrums with potential formulas, yet untested codes, yet unscrambled balms, yet blended. You realize that the story of glow-in-the-dark cosmetics is not a closed book, but an open manuscript, inviting each curious hand to write the next chapter. You step into the cloister's morning light, the archive's cool hush giving way to bird song and wind through vine-laced arches. You breathe deeply, tasting dew and parchment dust. A final callback surfaces from Section 1's dusty mortar to Section 14's living plants. The journey has been as luminous as any shimmer on skin. You murmur to the sunlit corridor, may every glow hold both wonder and wisdom. Then, with jars and journals in hand, you tread toward tomorrow's experiments, carrying the bright inheritance of alchemical ambition and botanical care into the next age of beauty's boundless radiance. The world around you softens the morning light, diffusing in gentle gold that bathes each stone ledge and budding flower in quiet warmth. You pause beneath an archway where vines trail like whispered lullabies and feel the residual hum of glow powders, both old and new, fading into memory. Let your shoulders loosen, releasing the weight of ledgers, codices, and files. Each step you take is a sigh of relief, a return from centuries of alchemical wonder to the intimacy of your own breath. In this stillness, acknowledge the tapestry you've unwound from first mortar experiments, coaxing moonlit embers to botanical dyes, capturing sunlight's essence from courtly spectacles glittering beneath tallow lamps, to secret ciphers guarding unicorn ash and phosphor recipes. Each thread weaves a legacy of human curiosity, an unbroken chain of hands stirring, stamping, and shedding light across the dark. Allow your mind to drift through the archive's hushed cabinets. Imagine the alchemist's murmured incantations, the philosopher's lamp's dim blue glow, the court dancer's powdered constellations, and the mystic's visionary balms revealing inner realms. Each image softens now like watercolors washed by gentle rain, merging into a serene canvas of possibility and care. Feel the pulse of discovery slow in your chest as the glow settles into a gentle afterglow beneath your skin. Let the cicada's distant song and the rustle of vine leaves become your new rhythm, guiding you into the hush before sleep. Here, even the oldest grievances of toxicity and debates of ethics find resolution in the knowledge that we learn, refine, and protect. Close your eyes and recall that final blend of cochineal, weld, and indigo, the botanical symphony that outlasted Mercury's bite and Lapis's cold gleam. Let that palette of living color linger on your lids like a dream. Inhale once more the rosewater citrus note of jasmine breeze and let it anchor you in the present moment. Drift now toward the horizon of your subconscious, where dreams unfold like illuminated manuscripts of your own making. May the legacy of radiance guide your rest, each glow a symbol of human perseverance, creativity, and the tender balance of wonder and wisdom. End of script. Sweet dreams.